Of you don't know this, but I have sisters. My sisters, I've never really seen them or spoken to them. I haven't really sat down and had dinner with them either, but I have heard them. I have heard my sisters cry themselves to sleep every night. I've listened to their trembling voices. My sisters are all the women of Afghanistan. Their nightmare began in 1989 when the Soviets left Afghanistan and gave room for the Taliban to rise. The Taliban are a society, an ethnic group, and with the Soviets leaving, the Taliban rose, and what they wanted to do was, they wanted to inform the warlords. They wanted to make sure that the Sharia laws of the Islam was held up. Sharia laws are laws that ensure social norms and sexuality, banking, anything you can possibly imagine. They rose after they overthrew a warlord in Kandahar, and after that, they moved on to Herat and then Kabul, the capital. The Taliban saw my sisters as sources of corruption, demanding them to be kept under strict laws. I have a sister. She turned 8 last month. Now that she's 8 years old, she's no longer allowed to talk to men or, play with boys. She's no longer allowed to go out on the streets alone without a man by her side. The only men she can talk to, or the only men she can contact, are her in-laws and her parents. Another law that was established by the Taliban was the law about the burqa. Now, the burqa isn't just any kind of covering. It doesn't just cover your hair and your face. It's a sickly blue cloth that makes sure that it covers your eyes with a thickly woven net. The burqa turned my sisters into ghosts, mere silhouettes of who they could be, and that's how they become invisible in a crowd full of men. I have another sister. She's 15, and she loves to dress up like the girls we see in magazines. She loves to put on makeup and wear high-heeled shoes and, put nail polish on once in a while. But since the Taliban came, she's no longer allowed to do these. She can't let anyone see her like that because she knows of the consequences. If she goes out on the streets like that, she knows that she will be beaten by the religious police, and her fingers, those beautifully fragile painted fingers, will be sliced off because she wore nail polish. Even something as simple as health care was impossible for them to obtain. The Taliban took out a rule saying that male doctors were not allowed to treat female patients. They're not allowed to touch them. On top of this, with a law that was released on September 30th, 1996, all women were banned of employment from outside their homes. Bakers and teachers especially were no longer allowed to go out on the streets and do their jobs. Widowed households collapsed under this because they had no income. Schools had to close down because most of the teachers for both boy and girl schools were mostly female. The Taliban ensured them that they would pay some sort of salary for them staying off the streets and remaining unseen. Afghanistan was a country back then, and they had about 65 to maybe 75% of women inhabiting Afghanistan. Most of the men were killed because of the decades of civil war and because of Soviet occupation. And because of this, Afghanistan collapsed even more into itself. How was the Taliban supposed to pay for 65 to 75% of its population? How was it supposed to survive after all of that? Now, my sisters, they know these rules. And if you listen carefully enough, you can hear them whispering in between themselves. They tell you not to wear makeup, not to go out on the streets alone, not to disobey your husband, not to talk to men, not to go out on the balconies or look out the window. Because they know what will happen to them if they do that. They have seen their other sisters get executed in public squares in front of more than 30,000 people. They have heard the slap of a man strong enough to land you on the ground. They know what will happen to them if they do not obey. Now, this is why this is so important for us to understand what was going on in a country. Now the Taliban are removed from power. They were removed from power in 2002. And since then, my sisters were able to breathe. Some of them got active in politics and law enforcement, media relations, even medicine. But the rest of my sisters aren't able to do this. In Kabul and other larger cities in Afghanistan, modernization is seen with every sunrise. But there are shadows next to the light. In the rural parts of Afghanistan, not much has changed for my sisters. They live lives of terror and fear. For them, arranged marriages and beatings and honor killings are just their lives. They still can't get the education they deserve because 10-year-old girls are being married off to 40-year-old men. The theme, one's words to many minds, is perfect for this. My sisters cannot speak here. They cannot be heard underneath whatever ground holds them. This is why I stand here today to raise awareness for not just only Afghan women, but for women who are oppressed all around the world. If we think of it, we both are the same, male and female. And if we think of it, in the 21st century, there are still countries that don't support our sisters. These countries could be Saudi Arabia, like we watched, Iraq, Somalia, Mali. These are just a few names that still oppress women. Not because they want to, not because they feel like they need to. It's just the way we see it today. It's the way we should change it, but we seem to lack that. And when I go home, and when I'm about to go to bed, I reflect back on my day and I think, yeah, I sat down and I had a meal with my parents and I'd done some homework. And then for a split second, you think of what might be going on in a country that's not so far away from where you stand right now. There are horrendous things that we see each day, that we hear of, but we don't react to. And for me, this is important. It's important to be reminded of this every single day, because I don't think we understand it fully. Not being able to speak, not being able to say anything, it's not just oppression, it's basically being destroyed as. And me speaking here to the women who have lost their voices, I'm speaking here for those who cannot speak for themselves. When I go to bed at night, when all of us go to bed at night, our sisters go to bed as well. And they cry, but they don't just cry tears. They cry blood, they cry tears, they cry sweat, and they cry for help. Because in their own land, no one is willing to help them. This is me bringing awareness to this because I don't think we're paying enough attention. And this is why one's words to many minds is perfect. Thank you.